We are the Cranium Command, using our heads the best we can. If an answer's what we need, we know how to succeed. We'll solve any problem on demand. Yes, we are the Cranium
Hello
Command.
everyone, I am joined today by the one and only Scott Curtis, a former child actor who lent his voice to the character Captain Buzzy in the Cranium Command attraction 30 years ago in the Wonders of Life Pavilion. We are here today to discuss Buzzy the character and the controversy recently surrounding him.
Which is out of control. Hello, everybody. Scott Curtis here. 30 years ago, which is mind-boggling to me how long ago it was. But yeah, man, it's nice to talk to you. Thank you so much. I know I reached out to you, and I just thought it would be a lot of fun to try to get the word out there and try to find Buzzy.
Yeah, this entire story has been twisted, but
It's crazy to me. I have my nephew Sam. I first kind of found out about this, and I posted on Facebook. Has anybody heard about this? And my nephew Sam just got a job. He lives in Oregon. Just got a job as a Disney prince. I don't think it's quite Disney related, but birthday parties and that kind of stuff. And and he wrote to me. He's like, "You haven't heard about this?" No. Apparently I'm not on the list to make it known for all things news Buzzy. I should be, though, I would think.
yeah. The whole thing with this, do you know the entire story, or?
I think I'm caught up, but no, please go ahead. Let me in on all the capers.
This entire ordeal, I got myself roped into this story long before anything went public, for better or for worse. It was November when I first heard the message that he was gone from a friend I had who was closely connected to the situation, who it was eventually like a game of telephone by that point, from a Disney employee who had claimed that. But I got the message then, he was gone. I knew his clothes were gone that August, and he was just laying in the theater with nothing but like his undershirt and his shorts. But
that's brutal. And they kept him under the spotlight too, didn't they?
So he was just kind of left there, and at first I didn't buy it, and neither did him. And it was like, there's no way you can get something that huge out of there.
Yeah.
And there were so many theories regarding it, but we just kind of brushed it off. And then all of a sudden, he was arrested, not like directly tied to it, but he was resisting arrest.
This was the backdoor Disney guy?
Yeah, him.
Okay,
his name was Patrick, but there's a clip going around. Oh, you go ahead.
No, I have kind of been trying to get caught up on what's going on. So I guess urban exploring. I'm not too hip. I'm 43 years old these days, so I don't know what the crazy kids do. But I guess urban exploring is kind of a thing where you break in to places and kind of film yourself, just like being in places you're not supposed to be, right?
But that's not entirely what urban exploring is. That's just unfortunately how this whole situation came to be, because a lot of exploring is authorized, but then a lot of it is just people going into places where they shouldn't be.
Okay. And I want to say about a year ago, I type in, Cranium Command every now and then on Google just to kind of see what's going on. And I'd seen that there were people that were breaking in, or I guess the door is open sometimes, or it really isn't that difficult to get on into the pavilion. But it was kind of anticlimactic to see these videos where Epcot is just storing all their shelves and just stuff like all over the place, and and it looks like it's still something that could be turned on at any moment. So I was kind of getting the idea that people were going in and out of there, and then I didn't pay attention to anything. And then
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, for some reason I checked in I typed in Cranium Command the other day just to kind of see what was going on, and I came across a young gal who was actually dressed like Buzzy, and she did like a 45-minute video And it was fascinating. I watched the entire thing, and it's just crazy how this thing has taken such a turn like this. So um, I wanted to reach out and I wanted to kind of try to help, bring awareness, and let's try, as the gal said in her video, that's her boy. Let's bring home the boy.
Yeah, but how the whole thing, how like the exploration happened was the Wonders of Life Pavilion. Nowadays, it's behind a construction wall and it won't be back for a few years, but there was just a simple rope covering it. It's super easy because the doors were unlocked all the time because cast members from Epcot went in and out of there, and they used the Body Wars and Cranium Command buildings to store stuff in. So people would just walk in there and walk around and look at stuff because usually the building was either vacant or people would only be in the upper floor. So
Okay.
the Body Wars and Cranium Command area, they would just be empty. I personally never got into the Cranium Command area myself, and that's kind of a regret of mine, but possibly for the best.
Right on.
But
Yeah,
people would just go in there and look around, and nobody had stopped them because there's just no one in there. And they
And
realized
so
they had a big security problem on their hands.
I guess I didn't realize it soon enough, huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So from what I understand now is this guy Patrick, who was running backdoor. I contacted them too, and it was someone wrote me back and said, yeah, he's not here. I don't know, if we could be of any help to you, or but I found out that he sold the clothes to a basketball player.
Correct, Robin Lopez.
Yeah, who's okay. I want to say, was it yesterday or the day before? I heard that he gave the clothes back to Epcot. Have you heard anything like that?
They were returned, last I heard, to the Orange County Sheriff's Office. His hat, his headphones, his headset, and his jacket have all been recovered.
And I want to just say to Robin Lopez how cool that was, that he
Absolutely.
stepped up like that, like, because I've kind of been figuring out that he's a diehard Disney fan. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. So, in raising awareness, what do you do you have any questions about the filming of it? What would you like to what do you kind of want to dive into?
I was gonna ask you, like, how did you land the role of Buzzy to begin with?
Okay, well, as you know, obviously I was a child actor. Getting the audition for it, this was 30 years ago. So I was 12 or 13 years old. So memories from back then are kind of a little fuzzy. No pun intended, fuzzy, buzzy. No pun intended. But I remember the audition for this was with the director, and this whole thing, which it's obvious, but a lot of people, it's not obvious for a lot of people. This entire show, I had a 6-foot tall cameraman who had this entire like Panavision camera on a Steadicam, and he had it directly over my shoulder, right next to my head. And so, considering that the 12-year-old boy was only going to be seen twice, the director really wanted to see hand movement, so that when the camera was next to the shoulder, I needed to be able to move around and not bump the camera. So really, that was a big part of the initial audition. And then landing the part, I didn't quite understand. I really hadn't heard of Epcot that much. I just knew that it was going to be a theater show, and it sounded like a lot of fun to me at 12 years old. So that was the audition. That was it. He just wanted to make sure that I could walk around, that he could pan and see my hands just doing certain things on his desk that was in there. Yeah, that was the key. That was what he wanted to see.
So, did you play the role of both Buzzy, the character, and Bobby, the 12-year-old boy in the show?
Yes. Yeah. So, at the beginning, after the dream sequence wakes up and the hand like smacks the alarm clock, that's my hand. From that point on, the eyes that you're looking through are my eyes. So, the theater that you're in is my head.
That's
So
awesome.
when he smacks the alarm clock and then he goes and looks in the mirror in the bedroom and you see the 12-year-old boy, that's me, as well as the voice of Buzzy in the theater. Now the voice of Buzzy that was in the waiting room or in the pre-show, that's not my voice, and I don't know. There's a lot of quirky little things that went on with this production for budget reasons. Also, the fact that we filmed it in LA, but it was like being finished in Epcot, so there were a lot of like little quirky things like that going on with the production. But it wasn't my voice. I'm not Buzzy in the waiting room.
That was one of my questions listed to ask you,
Yeah,
because there's this big thing no one knows, how his voice changes so much from the pre-show to the main show.
include me in that list. I don't know how it happened either. And
So now
I've
there's
read,
a mystery Buzzy voice for the
yeah,
pre-show that we have to track down.
yes, yeah.
But were you given any like details or images or any description for how to use the characters, or did you just kind of make it your own?
Um, it was really all based on the script. Um, uh, w- y- uh, with the audition, you know, um, my memory is so foggy too from way back when, man. But getting the part, like I knew that it was going to be an attraction at Epcot Center. I knew that the characters that were going to be in it were all the cast members from Saturday Night Live.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, I hadn't seen the script, and I really wasn't sure the depth or the immense scope of what this thing was going to become. I just went on the audition and got the part and was excited to get started at that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I got the part and we started filming, and God, it's been so long. I want to say that we filmed it pretty much in sequence as well. A little Easter egg for you guys to know is the scene in the house when I wake up, go downstairs, and I don't eat breakfast and I bail out the front door. When the camera goes out and sees that the bus has left, has gone up the street without Bobby, and the camera turns back around and it starts running through like the neighbor's yard and through the trees and all that. When it turns around, it looks at the same exact house. So the budget was not there to pay for two different locations. So when the camera turns around, there's like all these different props and stuff that are put in the front yard, and the house was the same. I always thought that was kind of odd, but it is what it is.
That's funny.
Yeah. So next time you watch, I know there's a decent video of it someone did like towards the end. So when you watch it next time, just when the camera flips around and starts to book through the neighborhood, yeah, I thought that was kind of neat.
So how involved were you with the development of the show? Did you just do your lines and the footage and then go?
Yeah, I was strictly an actor. The script was already there. I really didn't know anything about all the intricacies of how it was already made, I guess, and it just wasn't happening. And so that was when Eisner had called in the director and said, "Hey, we have this idea, but we want you to completely redo it." I mean, this is what I know by reading off it on Wikipedia. So even back then, I had no idea any of this. I was just a 12-year-old that was going to go be on camera. I mean, it was like anything else. It was like doing a commercial, or you show up at this time, know your stuff, and so it really wasn't that different as far as any other, filming any other project.
Mm-hmm. With Cranium Command, the concept itself dates back to like 1977, and it just never got off the ground, and they kept retooling it until it became the show we all know today.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I know back then, like, it was really technically complicated to get all the different screens and everything moving at the same time. From what I understand, it was quite an accomplishment. When we finished it, I want to say that when I got hired, I wasn't even ready to be the voice of Buzzy, the animatronic. I want to say like that almost happened after the fact, after I got hired. I don't know if that's true. Don't quote me on that. But we went into Disney Studios to do the audio recording. um, of the animatronic, and once I was finished, that was when they built all the sets on the actual Disney Studio lot. And the director invited me back so that I could meet. I went on the day where Hans and Franz, the Heart, I came in right in the middle of their doing their bit, and then when they finished, I got to go up and meet them, and I met them in character. And that picture that I sent you with my friend Jason Marsden, that was right after Hans and Franz did their bit. Then Bobcat Goldthwait came out and he did the adrenal gland. And even at that point, I still didn't really understand, the entire. I wasn't aware of the plot, or I just knew that these guys were going to be a part of it, and so I was a huge fan. 12 years old, 13 years old, watching Saturday Night Live, like just getting into it, just old enough to be able to watch that show, and then to go meet Hans and Franz, who were just huge back in the day, and Bobcat Goldthwait, same thing. So being able to meet them was like, as a kid, was phenomenal. But that picture that I sent you is of me and Jason meeting Bobcat Goldthwait on that day.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So when everything was finished, they had to do a mock-up just to try to see how everything was going to work. And they did the first mock-up at Disney Studio, and they invited me down to see the final product. But it was just like it was just black curtains, duvetine, and they had the screens kind of in the right areas. But I didn't get to experience it as the ride. So I heard the voice of Buzzy, but there was no set. It was just it was just a black wall with a bunch of TVs. So even then, I still wasn't able to get the full experience. So yeah, I wasn't able to watch it in full. Later, years down the road, well, a funny story. My grandmother we had relatives in Florida, and my grandmother went and she went to go see it and went to Epcot, and she told them who she was. That she said, I'm Scott's grandmother, and I'm here to see Cranium Command. And she didn't need a wheelchair, but they went and got one for her, and they wheeled her all the way to Wonders of Life, and they put her right in the front row, and they gave her the rock star treatment, which I thought was really cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah, she really got a kick out of that. So that was really neat. Out of high school, I got a job, and I was doing reservations for Continental Airlines. And part of the gig was I got to fly anywhere in the world that they flew for $20 round trip as part of being one of their employees. And so I had a friend, and we said, I looked at him and go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "This weekend." He goes, "Nothing." I go, "You know what? Let's go to Florida. Let's go to Epcot." And so I went. This is probably when I was, how old was I? Probably about 20 years old. So this was late 90s. Yeah, probably like 96, 97. And I went, and I didn't tell anybody, that I was Buzzy. I just wanted to go finally experience the ride on my own, and man, did I have fun! It was really exciting. It was a great production. But being that this was all before internet, when we finished the project, it took off and went to Florida. We really weren't able to see the response. We weren't able to, know what kind of life it was taking on. So this whole Buzzy disappearing thing is kind of showing me that people really took to it. They really had a good time on the attraction. So.
Well, the show itself meant a lot to people. It had a big emotional impact on its fans, and you figure millions of people went through that show not every day, but throughout its existence.
Yeah, maybe that explains a lot about me, knowing that there have been a million people through my head, right?
And with the Wonders of Life Pavilion in itself, Cranium Command went day in, day out for 12 years, and then MetLife pulled their sponsorship, and suddenly, now that Disney was footing the bill, they wouldn't keep up for maintenance of the shows. On the left side of the building, where Body Wars was, they would quit upkeeping the simulators unless they were in dire need of a repair, and they would just quit a general cleaning of the pavilion as far as dusting off the rooftops and stuff and everything. and
Really?
stuff just generally got into disrepair. And 3 years later, in 2004, they moved it to seasonal operation, where it would only open like around Christmas time if the park was really packed and they had to move people somewhere.
Is that right?
And even then, it was pretty empty because you figure it was such an old attraction by that point. And
Yeah.
they had no plans to do anything with the space, so they figured they would just leave it open until they had something better to do. And in 2007, it closed for the last time on New Year's Day, and by that point they didn't have anything set in stone to close it permanently, but they had the idea around like summer that year to host the Epcot Food and Wine Festival in there as like a home base for the seminars. And
While the two attractions were just kind of dormant in the background, right?
uh-huh,
Yeah,
they had
that's sad.
actually
I
just
know
blocked
that
them
it
off
was-
with like trees.
I know it was losing kind of its charm only in that the characters that were from Saturday Night Live, there was a
Yeah,
certain
it was
point where
beginning to
people
feel
just
pretty
kinda,
dated.
yeah, they didn't really know, who they were, and I know there's a lot of people saying, I don't know what Inside Out is, if it's a cartoon or something. They were saying how easy it would be to transfer the theme over to that.
Absolutely.
Which I'm not a fan of that, though. I mean, come on, let's let's keep the dream alive.
Pete Docter,
you know
who
what?
was one of the animators on Cranium Command, who is currently the president of Pixar, and he was the director on Inside Out. So he went from being on Cranium Command to being on Inside Out. So he's
There
on
was a
record
show-
stating that there might have been some sort of inspiration there.
Oh, I'm sure. And there was a show that was on TV. God, wish I researched this before I said this. Herman's
Herman's
Head. I wanna
Head?
say. Yeah, and I always wonder too if they got some of the inspiration from Cranium Command. I'm sure they did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they did. It was a great concept. It was a lot of fun. A little something too is when we finished it, or when I got hired, my agent and I we were told that it was going to be something that was only out there for a couple years tops, and it was because they weren't sure about the whole MetLife being the sponsor for as long as they did. So.
Mm-hmm.
So it the fact that it went as long as it did was crazy to me. I mean, so cool, and it really it just speaks volumes to what it was. The fact that it was only going to be there for a little bit, and then it just kept going year after year after year, which is awesome. I'm really thrilled that happened.
And after it had closed, the fan base was still there. And there were rumors popping up all the time that they would reopen it, and slowly they took the valuable show control components out of it from the back rooms, and suddenly it could no longer operate, and it would cost money to remove it, so they just kind of left it sitting. And year after year would go by, and Buzzy would gather dust, the sets would gather dust.
Ah, that hurts.
People would walk in there and grab their photos with them and leave. And it just got to this point where the whole show was starting to be in disrepair. But then Walt Disney Imagineering, which is the division of the parks that creates experiences and is responsible for implementing them into the parks, they went back there in I believe 2009 and started working on repairs to the Buzzy animatronic to make sure everything worked. And every few years they'd run pieces of the show to make sure it still worked. Just in
Really?
case they could revive it someday down the road. And in the last
Now
few years,
that's hard to do without Buzzy.
yeah, it's a little difficult now.
we gotta find the boy. We gotta bring the boy home.
But as the years went on, people started to gain wind of how popular this was and how it was all still back there, so a sort of black market started to form. In 2012, someone went in there and climbed up on stage and took his gloves. And he's had just robotic fingers just exposed there ever since.
Is that right?
And 5 years later, in 2017, I believe 2017, it's somewhere around there, little pieces started to go missing from the dome. No one knows truly who took all this stuff, but things would just, little props like emergency exit signs or cast-only signs would start to go missing. And then big things like the giant exit sign in the front of the building, and a lot of props from Body Wars in particular, and the next show sign from Cranium Command, stuff just started going missing. and it was only a matter of time before something worse happened, and someone got up the nerve to go up and take Buzzy's clothes, and Disney just wouldn't act, and they kept being poked, and all of a sudden one day Buzzy was just gone entirely. And I think that's when they woke up.
I heard that it's not a clean sever either. Like
Uh-uh.
it looks like they just chewed right through the hydraulic lines.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Buzzy, as far as his movements go, his face was air powered, and like the rest of his body movements were all on hydraulics. So there's still air tubes and hydraulic tubes there that ran from the back rooms behind the stage, which there is a video online of someone going through those back rooms if you're interested in that. But those lines ran back there to a main control, and rather than disconnecting those and removing him like Disney would do, someone just cut them at the base and took him.
And he was red tagged too, wasn't he? I think I read that. So he was ready to go to archive, and someone just beat him to the punch. Is that kind of?
In 2012, right before those gloves were taken, actually, Disney went back into the building to archive anything like noteworthy. A few things in Body Wars were taken, and a few things in Cranium Command were tagged. But he just went missing one day, and this whole investigation started, and it's just been this whole ordeal ever since.
And now involves the NBA player, and I mean, as being Buzzy, but only being able to casually be able to pay attention to what was going on out there. I just think this is a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, it's brutal that he's gone, man, but like I said, being in my position and seeing all of this excitement and like all the amount of knowledge that you have about it, I mean, it really is pretty cool to see how much of it the life it took on. I wanted to show you. This was like, I want to say 4 years ago. Again, every once in a while I would just pop on Google and type in Cranium Command, and just kind of see if there were any developments or anything. I knew it had shut down, but there were little vlogs and stuff happening. But I found these, and I bought 4 of them. Vinylmation. Do you know what that is? I'm trying to show you. Okay, so I didn't even know that they made these characters. It's Buzzy and General Knowledge that are like these little figurines. And the first one that I bought, when I found out that they were even a thing, I got one that has Buzzy's jacket on backwards. And it came that way in the box. So they said that it was somehow that it was a mess up, and I wrote to the person on eBay that I bought it from asking why it was a one-off, and then they told me because his clothes were backwards, and I look in and I go, oh yeah, sure is. But I have a friend that through a mutual friend, and he was up and coming. He wanted to be an animator, and we were over at my friend's house one day, and he didn't really know about my history as we were early 20s. He didn't know about my history as a child actor, and I didn't know about him wanting to be an animator. And we were all just hanging out, playing video games over at my friend's house, and he was the roommate. And we started talking, and my friend, his name is Ed. So Ed, if you're listening, he found out. He went, wait, you're Buzzy from Cranium Command? And I went, yeah. And he goes, oh my God. And he ran to his bedroom, and he came out holding a Cranium Command t-shirt. Like,
that is awesome.
He was a fan of it. I didn't even know that they made t-shirts. I mean, literally back then we had no way of knowing what was going on in Epcot. No internet. I know for a lot of young people it's hard to imagine such a time. But yeah, when he came out with a t-shirt, I almost wanted to steal it from him, but I didn't. But what I did do though is I bought a 4th figurine of Vinylmation, and I signed it and I sent it to him. Just because I knew, how much he enjoyed that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, anyhow, what thought crossed my mind, I think would be very cool is if Buzzy is found, I would like to fly out there and like try to turn it into a little, rescue mission or something, and just try to. I'd like to come out and meet you and meet other people that are trying to make this happen. I think that would be really cool. So if he's found, I'd like to make that happen. I don't know what form that would take, but But let's put it out there. Let's try to find Buzzy.
I know he's definitely somewhere out there. Something that big doesn't just get taken and get destroyed or something. He's a big, significant figure. So,
And one that I
somebody.
didn't quite realize how important he was to a lot of people. And
Mhm.
you know that feels good. You know, as Buzzy. You know, I like that a lot.
Now, in your visit to Epcot, did you do anything else in Wonders or in the park at all that like stands out, or did you just go specifically for Cranium Command?
I specifically went for Cranium Command. I had gone out there once when I was I want to say 7 or 8 years old, and back then it really wasn't something that was for children. Epcot was kind of it was more like museum-y
Mm-hmm.
kind of a thing. It wasn't like it didn't have It's a Small World or any like rides like that. It was more on education. So I remember going. I went with my grandmother um, when I was like 8 or 9 years old. I want to say because we had relatives that lived there in St. Petersburg, which they call God's waiting room. I guess it used to be all like a retirement city. I always thought that was funny. But we went once. We didn't go to Magic Kingdom because we figured that I'd already known what Disneyland was. So we did Epcot, and I wasn't really that interested in it. It was kind of tough. One thing that I do remember was going through Spaceship Earth. That's the big silver dome, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it kept breaking down. So like I want to say like every 2 minutes, it would come to a stop, um, which I thought was kind of weird. But I remember it being just like a big loop of different worlds. Is it still the same like that? Like
Mm-hmm. It is.
okay, so I that was as much as I knew of Epcot. And then when I went to actually go see it 12 years later, um, my friend wasn't really into it. Um, so when we went, I literally just paid, went in, saw it, um, and then we left. So
Did you ever do any of the other activities inside the Wonders of Life Pavilion, or just go straight to Cranium Command?
if I one thing that I remember there was like all these different experiments that you could do in the lobby.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I remember doing was there were the bars that one would be warm and one would be cold that you would grab with your hands, and then
Uh-huh.
you would move your hands and you would have to say which one was warm or cold, and it was the same temperature. It had something to do with the way your brain reacts to temperature, something like that's really like the only thing I remember about the lobby.
Yeah, that was right in front of the entrance plaza was an area called the Sensory Funhouse where they had all those hands-on exhibits.
Okay, yeah, I barely remember that. Like even that was 23 years ago that I went to go see it. So, but yeah, any other questions about the filming or anything fun that you can think of?
Do you have any other like notable stories from the set?
Um, yes. So the high the what it was a junior high. So junior high school that we filmed it at was also the same junior high school that they did the Wonder Years.
Mm-hmm.
We have Fred Savage. I don't know if you remember that show. Winnie Cooper. It was a huge show. We did that at the same junior high, and that was in Burbank, California.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a neat little thing. The food fight scene. I wasn't allowed to be a part of the food fight because they didn't want me to get hit like with a apple or a tray. Um, but it really bummed me out because kids always want to be a part of a food fight. So um, I am I I am in the actual food fight. I begged my way into it, and that was a trip. Um, I remember as everything was going, that the director and their producers, when they yelled "cut" when we were done, they didn't want anything else thrown. It was such a danger, like such a hazard risk. You don't realize how dangerous it is until you get pelted in the face with food. Like it's not safe. But I remember the director yelling "cut" right as I was like arm back with an apple, and I threw it, and I was the last one. And I got caught. I got caught being the last one to throw some after the director yelled. and I kind of got in trouble for that. But trying to think what else. Oh, another little Easter egg is when I'm sitting next to Annie. That was her name in the show, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay, because she had just got done doing Alice in Wonderland on ABC, and that was like a really huge deal. Her name was Natalie Gregory. Am I right?
I believe so.
Yeah, Natalie Gregory. So she was kind of really a big deal at that point. And I'm sure she still is, but back then it was really neat to work with her. In the scene where in the chemistry class, I had come up on as a child actor, you're only allowed to work 8 hours a day. And in that scene, we'd only, I think we tried to film, I want to say the entire thing was filmed in like 2 weeks, if memory serves. And so at that day, when we filmed that scene, I had already put in my full 8 hours, and Screen Actors Guild would not let me work any longer, or else the production would get fined big time. So those hands that are doing the science experiment, if you look at those hands, they are not Bobby's hands. So that was a stunt double, and it was a woman that was doing all the mixing and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always bugged me a little bit too, that you show those particular set of hands, and they were not mine. So that's another fun little item.
Now, a lot of the people on the project team for Cranium Command, notably like the animators, they got like little trinkets for their time on the set, like animation cells and stuff. Did you ever get anything for your time, or were you just out the door?
No, just out the door. I would really like to have one, though. I think that would be cool. I mean, like I said, I bought my Vinylmation characters on eBay. No, I think that would be awesome. And if they find Buzzy, count me in. I got a spare bedroom I could put him in. set up a little Buzzy museum.
Those vinyls have gotten like super uncommon right around this time, and especially with Buzzy's peak in popularity. That's a shame, because I know people who are trying to find them, but I was trying to find them myself and never could. And then one day I was at a flea market and I saw a set of them, and I grabbed those, and they're sitting on my desk right now, just looking right at me.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm hoping that my friend Ed, I hope that the value went up in his mind as well with all of this going on. And yeah, I didn't even know that they made those. And so when I saw them, I just thought it was, fun. Hey, cool, I'll get my own action figure, And like I said, this whole thing happening is just, it really is a blessing, because to me, because it's just seeing the excitement and all the young people that are just how much life has been breathed into this project, when it was something that I thought that was done a long time ago,
Mm-hmm. And it is very surreal to think that an attraction that's been closed for almost 13 years now still has this big impact on people, and there's still people actively really trying to find the animatronic.
Yeah, it really is a testament to how much fun that ride was. I mean, I couldn't wipe the smile off my face, and I don't think it was because I was in it. I think I was just really, really enjoying it. I mean, it was action packed. The message was great. It really was a fantastic ride. I think Disney hit a home run with it. And like you just said, the fact that that everybody is going so nuts for it right now.
It was a stellar achievement too, because you figure that was 4 rear projected screens and the 4 digital screens on the bottom, and then all the special effects between the lighting and the smoke machines and the sirens. It was a powerhouse.
Themselves. Yeah. I think it was a real technical achievement. I don't know of any other things that really existed of that complexity.
It was one of a kind.
Yeah. So it was it was phenomenal. I could tell how much fun it was when we were filming it. And then I didn't really understand like the scope of it, like I said, until I actually went out there when I was like 20 years old. Exactly. That was 20 years old when I went out there. Still didn't really understand how awesome it was, because at that point the only thing that I saw was that mock-up.
Mm-hmm.
So to see it all in action was pretty damn cool.
It was a beautiful show.
Yeah. So all right. Well, I wanted to reach out to you and thank you for reaching back out to me. And if there's any developments or anything that we can, just kind of keep going on and doing what we can, then I'm more than happy to, have another conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
Man, let's find Buzzy. Hashtag find Buzzy. That's what the kids say, right?
Yeah. That was actually the hashtag that I started myself, and
Did you?
never thought that it would get this big, but here we are.
There you are. And as you can see, I know this is just an audio recording, but back on my wall I printed out a big old hashtag find Buzzy. So I'm excited. This is cool. I'm in. Let's do this.
Do you want to close out saying any of your lines again?
Let's see. I want to say use your head. And remember, use your head. Don't lose your head.
It's easy. You'll be flying in no time as the member of the Cranium Command.
As the member of the Cranium Command. Goodbye!
Let's hear it for Captain Buzzy! Hip hip hooray!
So remember, gang, if you get stressed out, just call in your general knowledge, balance your body crew, and get your cranium under command. Use your head, don't lose your head. It's easy. You'll be flying in no time. As a member of the Cranium Command. Goodbye!
On behalf of the Cranium Commandos and the Walt Disney Company, thank you for volunteering for Cranium Command. Please gather your belongings and exit the command center through the doors on your left. Madam, you forgot your child. Oh, that's your husband? I'm very sorry. I mean that. Have a wonderful day.